Good afternoon, YouTube. JT Serenity Farms prepping here. So, I got some exciting updates from yesterday's video that is developing to be part of that overall plan. So, in yesterday's video, I discussed where President Trump is negotiating with some of our frenemies to assist the U.S. in certain parts of national security that we may be teaming up with Russia, Iran, Israel, and Turkey, declaring China an enemy of the state, no trading, and everybody will get a little something for their help. So, President Trump signed an order and handed it to Nancy Pelosi where the U.S. government and the president specifically have made a declaration and declared any companies, foreign or domestic, that are buying, selling, trading with the Chi-Coms and organizations that have been designated by President Trump and his team to be part of the communist regime will be arrested and tried if they are continuing to do business with them. And this goes back 365 days. So what that means is, remember yesterday I mentioned that a lot of Chi-Com money was invested in stocks, bonds, hedge funds, all sorts of other things in the United States, and then the traitorous politicians were given heads-up info on that, invested lots and lots of money into all these companies, in Essex funneling money right back to the Chinese, that Americans are buying into this without knowledge, and they're supporting and actually funding the Chinese Communist Army, while these Democrat politicians and rhinos are getting uber rich while committing treason. So that letter verifies what we talked about in that case. But what I found out today, in chorus with the frenemies, which is to protect us all around the world after this scenario likely goes down. So, as a lot of you may have heard, the U.S., we're not exactly under civilian authority right now, because in September 12th, 2018, if you remember, the president signed the national emergency, declared a national emergency. As soon as that is declared, the U.S. is technically not under civilian authority, but under the authority of Fema and the DOD and the military. So, by that declaration of the state of national emergency, it was a transition of power to Fema. Alright, so we all know Fema has a bad rap, and all evidence and a lot of documents coming out validate that under deep stater and traitor Bush and Hussein Obama, there were in fact FEMA camps being built for detainment of patriots and people who disagreed with their regimes. But that was then. This is now. So, FEMA, on January 14th, 2020, President Trump appointed Pete Gaynor to be the head of FEMA, on January 14, 2020. He was confirmed by the Senate. He has 26 years in the Marines as an officer. He was assigned to be in charge of presidential retreats, such as Camp David, and was in charge when 9/11 happened of protecting the presidents at that time. He was deployed in the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, which is way up there. Okay, and then he worked on numerous emergency management type things before finally landing as the director of FEMA. So the man is a Marine, 26 plus years. That's important. So FEMA is responsible for continuity of government when there is no functioning judicial system. I think that's been established pretty well, don't you? So FEMA can set up their own courts, their own executive officers, their own departments, and their own prisons. FEMA was activated on pretty much the entire East Coast, and they, as I mentioned yesterday, they were set up in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. With 20,000 National Guard, or 10,000 National Guard, 10,000 Marines. Marines are loyal to the president. Now remember, the Democrats created this fake false flag narrative about security, the riots, all that crap on D.C. So they begged President Trump to bring in the National Guard and some troops and set up FEMA camps. So he did. Was that a 4D chess move? We'll find out. So, the DOD is run by Chris Miller. As I mentioned, September 12th, 2018 was when President Trump signed the National Emergency Act. So, with that, the election took place under a national emergency. So, without civilian government, who is in charge? FEMA and DOD. Alright, so FEMA has in essence surrounded DC, and the National Guard will be federalized as soon as the Insurrection Act is initiated, which I'm still getting conflicting reports. One day I get 3 or 4 people that say it is, 3 or 4 people that say it isn't. We will know. So, when that happens, but during this inauguration, DC will be under the control of FEMA and the DOD. So there's been a couple people on there that have stated on YouTube and stuff that we are under a military coup. Well, I believe that's correct now. It's just that we're under a military coup to take back the country from an illegal election that the Joint Chiefs of Staff put out a letter last week saying they believe they will follow all legal and lawful orders and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that the election appears to be null and void. So, Biden will likely, unless something dramatic happens in the next few days, likely be inaugurated on the 20th. Then, subsequently, that means right after for TARDs, very likely be arrested, taken into custody, along with Camaho and all the other dirty, treasonous Dems. as the DOD and FEMA take care of all enemies domestic. So that would lead to FEMA being in charge, arresting them, holding them, and then the military would conduct some tribunals, and then hopefully just punishment would be served. But it would also mean getting the election null and void by all the evidence that should be presented will put President Trump back in office. Which will lead back to yesterday's video that there will be forces from within and without that aren't going to like that decision and will probably attempt to act out. Now, according to some, Pedo Joe may actually be in office until the end of March. And then, right around April 1st, President Trump would be duly sworn back into office because the evidence has to come out. Even if it came out tomorrow, there's not enough time. Like the D-Class, the Russia, Obamagate, the Brenner, the Clapper, the dirty FBI, the CIA, the Comeys, the Strzok, all those pieces of shit, all the Democrats who lied. This is all going to come to light with that D-Class. So, let's keep our fingers crossed. Like I said, this is all information that I gather. I try and verify it, and I verify that the information I'm giving you is true. It doesn't mean that what is going to happen or what we want to happen will actually come to fruition. But we gotta hope. So, like, share, subscribe, comment, notification bell. But for now, JT signing off.